Hello and welcome to the Tough Cover Radio Show. I am your host, as always, Mark Henry Jr. You can follow me on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. And we got a special co-host this week, Sean Bernard, on his way up to Happy Valley with Sean Brace, with Ryan Beef Coyle. So we had to bring in Ryan Beef Coyle's roommate, the other guy on Football is King, which is a great show right here on Fox Sports The Gambler. Beef and McClay are absolutely killing it. I've absolutely loved the stuff they've been doing for the first couple of weeks of this football season. Had to get my guy Nick McClay on. You can follow Nick at Nick McClay 22. Nick, how we doing, brother?
Yeah, man, I'm excited to get into it. We got a good slate of games this weekend with both college football and NFL, so can't wait to get to it. Had a good game Thursday night with Washington and Green Bay that really kind of showed Green Bay, is up there with the top teams in not only the NFC, I think kind of the NFL right now. So good to get to see that on Thursday night. And, I can't wait to get into all of the college stuff this weekend. So I'm excited.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to talk about. I think it's last week's college slate ended up being really good, but going in
Right.
didn't have the marquee matchups. I think this is a much better slate, and it still has some of those under the radar matchups as
Mhm.
well. Obviously, NFL slate. For anybody listening live, obviously it's Friday. The Tough Cover Radio Show comes out on Saturday mornings. But wanted to get out ahead of this and record it out there, put it out there for the people. So not going to talk about the Friday games. You can judge us tomorrow. I've got Arizona and New Mexico. You got anything tonight, Nick?
No, I have Houston. Houston -4.
Houston.
I got against Colorado. I like that. And I would have New Mexico. I'll probably, as the night goes on, I'll probably hammer New Mexico. Just a full fade of UCLA this year. That's
I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat. So if you're listening Saturday morning, you'll be able to tell us if we were wrong about the Friday night games. But let's get it started. Let's start with college football. We'll get to the NFL in the second hour. Maybe we even talk some Phils at some point, but focus on football. And so I'm a Phils guy. I was at the game Thursday night, last night for the people listening Friday. But I Phils talk is coming in a couple weeks, and then that'll take over the show a little bit in Red October. We just got to football season. I'm
Exactly.
footballed up. I can't even contain my excitement. So let's get it started on the noon slate. And I'd say probably a backloaded slate in this card. I'd say a lot of good games at night, kind of concurrently. Maybe even a better late afternoon 3:30 slate than the noon slate. But a couple big teams playing, and I'll start with the biggest game at noon. That it's actually a game I don't have a play on. Clemson at Georgia Tech. I know this line's moved crazy, Nick. I don't know if you know where it's at now.
Right now, I got +3 for Georgia Tech.
Okay,
3 even.
it's at 3 now. I think it even dipped below that at points
Yeah.
where it got down to 2.5. I've been vocal about my thoughts on Clemson and thinking that this is a Clemson team that got elevated for reasons I never really understood. I understood people picking them to win the ACC. That's a different conversation. But people picking them, putting them with the Ohio States and the Texases and the Georgias or whoever you want to say as the true blue national title contenders and teams that can really go and win it all this year. I'd say it's a small group. And people were throwing Clemson in that to the point where on the podcasts I listen to, shout out to Unnecessary Roughness, shout out to Cover 3, those couple podcasts in college, Josh Pate. I feel like Clemson might have been the most popular national title pick of the kind of college football writers, I guess you could say. And I never got it. This was a team that went 9-4 last year, and I know they won the ACC. They were in the playoff. It's because they had a weak ACC and they played well in ACC competition when they played the SEC. They were brutal. But on the flip side, I've also been kind of the guy. A lot of Georgia Tech was a little bit of a hot sleeper pick, as if a team's gonna compete with Clemson in the ACC, they have this game on the road where Clemson has to go to Georgia Tech, and people like Haynes King and people like the head coach. But I think that's more of a 7-5, 8-4, solid out, like a tough out team more than a contender. A team that's going to run the ball well, play good defense for the most part. But I think the upside might be a little limited with the Georgia Tech. So I'm at a loss here. I'm struggling with this game. I'm kind of lower than consensus on both teams. Where are you at on this one?
Right. So coming into this season, I was definitely higher on Clemson than you were for this overall team. I was convinced that they would be winning the ACC. I thought they could be able to make a run. Looking at how they've played the last two games, no confidence in that from their offense and their defense. I love the roster that they built up. You know what I mean? The guys that they bring back, all of the production, but you still have to execute on the field. And what we've seen, I haven't really been convinced. And in an ACC that we kind of thought was going to be weak, Miami looks really good. Florida State's coming up. Louisville's still there. And, I mean, if you're high on Georgia Tech, they could make a run too. I kind of agree with you. I think they're more around that 8-win team. But Haynes King can come in here and at home against Clemson, this is a shot for Georgia Tech to show that they're at the top of the ACC. So they're going to come out hot. I think if you want a flyer, I think I'm kind of leaning towards Georgia Tech and the money right now.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people are at, and I totally understand why. I mean, after watching Clemson, I totally get that reason. I struggle to even say where I would lean if I were to make a play on this game. I think if you made me, I probably would just take the points with Georgia Tech. If I think it's a toss-up, I'll take the points. So that's where I lean on it, but I really this is a tough one for me. And I would say the other three big games at noon, huge spreads, a lot of big spreads here, and it just comes down to gambling interests and whether you want to lay the big number, if you want to take the points. I'll start with the one in Philly, another game I don't have a play on. Oklahoma at Temple. I know that was minus 23.5. I think that numbers actually went down. I could be off there. But I was shocked when Sean Brace brought this up to me on radio. I was kind of joking and I was like, oh yeah, gonna be, did you hear what they said? Oh, it's back to 23.5. But that's a respectful number for Temple. Mm-hmm. I know people hear 23.5. It sounds like a big number. In years past, that's 38, 40. That's a way higher number, especially with an Oklahoma team coming off of a big win against Michigan. So I don't have a take on this game other than shout out to Temple for earning some respect from the odds makers.
Yeah, I don't either. If I really were to place it, I think I would just ride the home team and the Philly team and go with the plus 23.5. But really, Oklahoma coming off that big win. I think Oklahoma is a legit team too as well. Heading into the season, I was really high on them. I was just had big question marks with Brent Venables, but the first couple games they've really shown that they're a team. They're a team in that SEC that could really make it. But I think in this one, 23.5 points, like you said, years past, this is probably a 30, 35 point spread. With it being 23, that's respectable for Temple. Give me the home team there. I mean, I'm not going to probably won't place it, but I'll be rooting for Temple there in that one.
Yeah, definitely will be pulling for the Owls there. And then I've got two big numbers that I actually am in on here. And I'm going with the Oregon Ducks, minus 27.5 at Northwestern. I'm laying the big number. I'm not going to be afraid of it. I laid it last week, and I wish I would have laid it harder. I wish I would have not been afraid of the big number to make it, one of my best bets of the week, because you bet them. I don't even know what it was, minus 20.5, 21.5 in the low 20s. They won by 66. It's Dan Lanning puts it on these teams and cares about the style points, cares about winning these games in blowouts, doesn't take his foot off the gas. So shout out to Dan Lanning. I think it's awesome for the sport that we have a guy like that. I think it's also, I get there's some sleepy vibes for people like, Evanston and, noon game, Oregon coming across the country. Big noon kickoff is there. So it is at least like some level of notoriety. Dan Lanning will probably be able to work some angle on that to his players to get them to come up and play in a big spot for the national crowd. So give me the Ducks minus 27.5.
Yeah, last week me and a couple of roommates put on their first half spread and their total game spread, and it hit easy. So this is a team that runs it up, like you said, Dan Lanning. We need more teams like this that go out there and just run it up. Doesn't matter who you play, put the foot on the pedal and just go down there and really show why you are one of the top teams in the nation, not only the Big Ten, but in the whole entire country. Why was your team total 10.5 at this start of the season? Go out there and show me. even against these bad teams. And he goes out there and does it every single week. So that 27.5, I think you just said, I think I would lay that as well. And even look into the first half as well.
And here's another one that I'm laying. I'm laying the 20.5 with Alabama. They showed up last week, and obviously not a good opponent in UL Monroe, but 73-0. I think that they showed up motivated. They showed up ready to kind of prove that week one was a fluke. And there is some stuff, if you look at week one, that the success rate in yards per play was actually like a little bit of a closer game. Like they might have even won some of those metrics. So I think there was some bad luck. I think they were pretty unmotivated, it seemed like, in that game to play hard on either side of the ball. And I think that that's changed now. I do think that they in some way have gotten that together in Tuscaloosa for the time being. Maybe that'll change when they have the tough SEC opponents. But Luke Fickell in Wisconsin, in my opinion, are not a tough SEC opponent. Looking at these last couple of years, looking at even just the start of the year, 17-0, where they struggled for a while against Miami of Ohio. If you're struggling with Miami of Ohio, I think you're going to struggle with the Crimson Tide, even if it's a down year.
Yeah, I think also Wisconsin's quarterback might be hurt too as well. So I think in that game, I would lean Alabama as well. And I'm very high on it. Teams that really, like week one, they get blown out. Obviously, Florida State really comes to them. This is where Kalen DeBoer really needs to get his guys together and say, we are Alabama. We have this roster for a reason. This is our SEC. It has been for the past couple of years. Why not go out there and show it? And with Wisconsin, this is not a good team. You got to go out there and show it. You're at home. You come back home after that, 70 plus, putting up 70 plus points. Go out there and put the foot on the pedal, like we just said with Oregon. Go out there and beat a team that has a big name like Wisconsin. Obviously, they're not, what Wisconsin was, but go out there and really show them that why this spread is over 20 points.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Luke Fickell. It's crazy that he ended up taking that Wisconsin job. I said it at the time. I was like, that didn't feel like a big enough job for Luke Fickell to take, and he has made it worse than when he took it over.
No.
It's shocking. But at 3:30, I think the biggest game of the day, you could argue, and probably my second favorite bet of the day, is Georgia at Tennessee. And I'm going with the dogs. I'm going with Georgia minus 3.5. I think if there's any side of the ball, if there out of the four units, offense and defense, if there's any unit I'm worried about, it's that Tennessee defense. I did think Syracuse was able to move the ball. I think they had more first downs than Tennessee in that game. They had like close to 400 yards total in offense, total yards of offense. They scored 26 points and they had like a pick in the end zone. It could have been really more than that. I know Tennessee put up a ton of points on Syracuse in that game, but I think Georgia's going to do well offensively in this game. I know that they haven't lit it up these first 2 weeks against Cupcakes, but I think they've kind of been conserving for this game. Top two Tennessee corners are out, so I expect big days from Zachariah Branch and Colby Young, the receivers for Georgia. Maybe Gunnar Stockton starts running around a little bit and has a big day. Bulldogs have won 8 in a row in this rivalry dating back to 2017. I think make it 9 in a row, and I think there's a chance this is a discount on Georgia minus 3.5. This was minus 6.5 until I think Sunday or Monday when the line started to move, and I think there's a chance in a couple weeks that if we had this game in week 7 or 8, that this would be back up, above a touchdown maybe.
I completely agree. When I saw that it was at 3, I was like, I think I have to take Georgia in this one. Once it came down from 7, I don't really understand that movement at all after Georgia putting up 73 points and only allowing 13. I know, like you said, they're playing Cupcakes, but still you got to go out there and execute and go do it. And they did it. And they've looked really good. You watch this Georgia team, even though they are playing lesser opponents, they look legit. So I think coming into Tennessee, on the flip side, this is a huge game for Tennessee. This is a game for Tennessee to show that they're like that. They are, above, or at the top of the SEC, but they're going to have to stop Gunnar Stockton in the run game. Going to have to stop he's not that flashy of a runner, but he'll put his head down and run right through you. So you got to prepare for that. Like you said, the top 2 cornerbacks are out, so they can be, open up the passing game. And once that passing game's open, that goes right back to the run game with Nate Frazier and Gunnar Stockton. So with me, I'm going to lean Georgia in the points here. If I had to lean to the total, I think I would lean the under, but I'm going Georgia to cover that spread there.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, and I think, yeah, I really the thing I can't get over is that I just think we're getting a discount,
Yeah.
and it
Yep.
ended up elevating it from I liked it at -6.5, -7. I was going to bet Georgia,
Yeah.
but when it got to 3.5, I'm all in on this one. And this is kind of the opposite play, where the next game, maybe not as big of a game, but a big rivalry, the backyard brawl, Pitt and West Virginia, where this line opened at Pitt -2.5, and I thought it was going to be my favorite bet of the season. Now it's all the way up to 7, 7.5. And I still like it. I'm still taking Pitt. I think Pitt's going to get the job done. I really believe in this Pitt team. They have a really tough schedule, but even if they win 9 games, I think they might be a really, really good 9-win team. So Pitt -4 or Pitt -7, 7.5, whatever it is. Maybe first half Pitt. I haven't decided.
Mhm.
I'm going to sprinkle on that instead, maybe. But I like Pitt in this game to kind of put it on West Virginia. I don't really worry about them taking the foot off the gas in the rivalry. I think they're just levels above where Rich Rod has West Virginia.
I was just gonna say I don't think really Rich Rod has been there just yet. I love the narrative of Rich Rod coming back there, but we just really haven't seen it yet. So I think I would ride with you on the Pittsburgh. I don't think I'm gonna have a play on this. But if it was still at that low total or low spread, I would much rather like that than it being over a touchdown. So I think if I had to gun to my head, I think I would go with that first half spread for Pitt.
I have a stat that I haven't been able to get for later on in this episode, and I'm trying to do live math on it while I'm trying to add up my plays here. And it's bad radio by me, bad job by Mark. Let's go to another big spread at 3:30. Another big spread that I'm laying with this one. USC at Purdue. Give me -20.5. I think US. Maybe you could. I guess the first half number is at uh, 10.5, 11.5. That's interesting as well. But I think USC puts it on them here. I think that offense looks really good. I know it's against cupcakes, and Purdue, I think, is yet another cupcake. So I think Mayava has another big day.
Yeah, I was a little down or a little lower on USC coming into this year. I know me and Beef were going at it. He was high on USC. I was a little lower, but they have proven me wrong. That offense is firing. And Purdue, I think, is one of the worst teams probably in the country. In my opinion, they're bad. So I think I'll ride with you on the 20. Probably won't end up playing it, but the 20.5 I think is very doable for an offense like this, very overpowering. And they're also a team that will pour it on too. Purdue is not going to really put up a fight in this one. I don't think. It doesn't matter that it being at home. Total being at 59.5. I could even see USC putting up close to that number. So if you want to go lean a total there, I think I would lean the over in that USC Purdue. But overall, I'd lean to 20 with the USC with how that offense has looked so far this season.
And then the other games at 3:30 that I don't have on the card. We have Villanova Penn State with our guys down there in Happy
Be
Valley. We'll
there.
see. We'll see what if that's a beatdown by Penn State, who hasn't been beating teams down the way people have expected. So maybe not. Oregon State at Texas Tech. Oregon State's a team that I was expecting to be a little bit more competitive coming into the year. They have not looked competitive. I'm not a huge Texas Tech guy, so I could see them hanging a little tougher than the number, but not enough to want to bet it. At 4:30, though, one of the bigger games of the day, and it's not on my card just because the number's just a little too big for me. But USF at Miami. To me, this feels like a letdown spot for USF, coming off of maybe the biggest win in program history against Big Brother Florida in the backyard at the Swamp, and now you're going down to Miami. You've been reading about how you could be a top 5 team if you win this game. Feels like Miami should beat them down, but I'm not a crystal ball truster. Hard for me to lay a big number with Mario, so I'm not betting it. But if I was, it would definitely be Miami.
So on Tuesday, when me and Beef did our Football is King, it was at 18.5. So I took it then. I know it's only a 1 point difference, but I think just looking at the spread like this really makes me want to take Miami. Like South Florida coming off that big win. I have been very down on Miami heading into this year, and they've proven me wrong. They've looked really good. Carson Beck does look pretty good. But looking at this high of a number, I took it at 18.5, and I don't feel confident right now just because why is it so much? Why is it that high to a team that coming off of like a great win in the Swamp? But like you said, it's a classic letdown spot where a team that is getting talked about, it could be in the top 10 after these 2 wins, and preseason weren't talked about at all. It's a perfect letdown spot. A team that, in state too. I think I'm not as confident as the USF spread on the USF spread as I was previously, but I'm going to lean that way.
And then at 7 o'clock, a couple games that I don't have a play on here. I have 2 plays at 8 and then 1 at 10:30. But we have 5 games to get to before we get to 8 o'clock. So let's run down these. Arkansas at Ole Miss. Ole Miss let me down last week, not covering against Kentucky. Lane did apologize, so thank you, Lane. But this one might be a tougher test than Kentucky was last week. Even in their home building, Arkansas, Taylor Green has looked pretty good to start this year. Any read on this one for you?
So my initial look at this, I think the total was at 60, straight 60 and a half. I like the over in this one. I like both teams to kind of come out firing. Lane Kiffin, they're coming off that, shaky game against Kentucky. They didn't really look all that. Austin Simmons did not look good at all. So I think they kind of regrouped. They kind of patched things up. If I were to lean aside, I'm looking at it at 6.5 right now. I think I would lean Ole Miss still. That last week kind of made me a little shaky on the confidence level of Ole Miss as the season goes on. But I think at home, I think you should be able to beat this Arkansas team by at least a touchdown. But overall, I think I would lean that over as well.
And then another 7 o'clocker, Ohio at Ohio State. Ohio State is minus 31.5. Ohio did just beat West Virginia. Parker Navarro, pretty solid quarterback. I do kind of feel like, maybe Ohio gives Ohio State a tougher test than 31.5. I'm not going to bet against the best, in my opinion, the best team in the country in the Buckeyes, though. So just throwing it out there. I feel like Ohio probably covers that number. At 7:30, before we get to the big one that I don't even want to talk about, Florida at LSU. Florida at LSU, 7.5-point favorite. LSU on ABC. I also wrote these lines down a day or two ago, so if I'm off, correct me on any of these. But LSU, I wrote 7.5. Feels like everybody's going to look at that number. I haven't looked at the public splits to see who people are betting on. Feels like people are going to hammer LSU in that spot. Only a single-digit number. They're the ranked team. Florida's not. We all saw Florida lose to USF. I'm a Billy Napier hater. I have been since the day he was hired. But it does feel like a bounce-back Florida spot. But it's Death Valley. So I'm not going to bet on Billy Napier to get right in Death Valley. If I was going to bet this game, it would be Florida with the points. I wouldn't be betting money line. I would just take the points. But again, I don't trust Billy Napier enough to do it, and that's why people are going to bet LSU. So I understand the flip side of it. But I feel like LSU might be and I bet them all the time. Sometimes I say I'm walking right into the rat trap. It might be a little bit of a rat trap.
Yeah, right now I'm looking at DraftKings. Line is at 7. Money line 93%. I mean, that's minus 270. Spread 75% in LSU favor. Total 56% to the over. So they like the over and they love LSU. But I think if I had to lean, I think I would go LSU. Just coming off, like you said, I'm a Billy Napier hater. I think that Florida team is very good roster-wise, but you still got to go out there and coach a team. Still got to go out there and execute. And DJ Lagway hasn't really shown that he can really win the games. I love his talent, love his athleticism, but his head, he can't really just put it all together at once. I think coming into LSU, that environment, it's going to be tough for Florida to do that, but you're right. It could be a bounce back where we don't expect Florida to win, and they win. Florida's a team where they shoot themselves in the foot more than they go out, then they lose themselves, if that makes sense. They don't get beat, they lose themselves. And I think going into LSU, I don't trust them enough to cover that spread. So I would go LSU in this one.
And then the big one, the game I don't want to talk about because I don't feel good about it. At 7:30, Texas A&M at Notre Dame on NBC. And I think this is a 0-2. See you. Goodbye. Good luck for the Irish. And I have talked myself a little bit into if Notre Dame wins 10 in a row. I understand the schedule's not tough, but maybe the argument at that point, and it would obviously depend on the strength of the other 11 teams and kind of that 8 to 11 area. But would they look at a team and say, they haven't lost since September 13th? I know that they haven't played that many good teams, but they won 10 straight games. They
Hmm.
still went 10-2, yada yada yada. Their two losses would probably they would probably have to be both really good. A&M and in
Right.
Miami, if you lost both, would have to probably both make the playoff. But I'm talking myself into that. But I can't lie. I think it's probably the biggest regular season game of the Marcus Freeman era, because
Yeah.
it's the one with the most at stake. It feels like.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
And it's a shame because I think if they went 10-2, if they played Miami in week 4 and they played A&M in week 9 and they went 10-2 and you missed the playoff or whatever, I think you'd probably be like, yeah, you know what, it's a step down from last year, but 10-2, we
Right.
kept we still had a good season. We weren't TCU or we fell off the face of the earth after making the Natty or Washington or something like that. We still kept it respectable. But if you go 0-2, it's going to change the way you feel about it, even if you do go 10-2, because
Right.
people remember the beginnings and the ends of seasons. They kind of block out what happened
Exactly.
a lot of the time. So it's a shame that Notre Dame schedules this way. Happy they had a bye week last week to prepare for this one. It's the one thing that does kind of make me feel good. But I picked A&M to make the playoff before the year. I'm high on Marcel Reed. I'm high on Le'Veon Moss. I'm high on Ruben Owen is the other running back there with Moss. And they have blue chipper 5 stars on the trenches on both sides of the ball. I think this is going to be a tough matchup. I said before the year, I thought that the game and that out of the first two that would be easier for Notre Dame would be Miami. They come out and they lose that game by 3 after a nice comeback.
Mhm.
I think this game's going to be tough. I can't believe the spread. If I'm not betting it, but if I was going to bet it, I'd be hammering A&M.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame does win this game. I think A&M does cover. I think right now I have the score at 28-24 right now. So, I mean, I think Notre Dame just really the play calling kind of confused me against Miami. They really only I know the game script kind of like Miami had a few free plays happen defensively, even offensively too. But like Jeremiah Love only touched the ball 14 times. And again, I know the game script and Miami's defense plays a factor into that. But your star guy, your star running back, I feel like you got to get him the ball a little bit more. I think in this one upcoming, you're going to have to keep the ball in Notre Dame's hands rather than beat that or with you don't want to give the Marcel Reed the ball. The things that he can do with the ball with his ground game, and even he improved a lot in the passing game. Doesn't have any interceptions. I know only 2 games, but that was a big question mark of his was turning the ball over. And if he doesn't turn the ball over, I think A&M has a very good chance. But with Notre Dame's defense, I think they do keep them in this game. So I think Texas A&M ends up covering, but I do think Notre Dame wins the game outright.
7:45. We've got Vanderbilt at South Carolina, and a big part of me wants to back my guy Diego Pavia again. After he came through for me last week, and I would say their game against Virginia Tech was more impressive than South Carolina's game against Virginia Tech. But college football math's not always linear. It's out there at 3.5 right now. The spread in terms of South Carolina being favored. This is a stay away for me. It feels like this game is decided by a field goal, probably either way. I lean Vandy, but I understand why the spread is the way it is. I think South Carolina is a more talented team.
Yeah, I have South Carolina in this one. I took the -3. I think just Lenore Sellers and that offense is too explosive for that Vandy defense, I think, and it being in South Carolina, I think there's too much for South Carolina to lose if they lose this game against a Vanderbilt team. I know Vanderbilt is a good team and up and coming, but I think if you lose this game, if you're South Carolina, that opens up a lot of eyes and opens up a lot of chances for other teams to come above you in that SEC. So I think this is a game South Carolina can't lose. Even if it's a 3-point spread, I think you got to go out there and win it, even though, the lines are saying that this should be a tight game. I think if you're the Gamecocks, you got to go out there and show why you are the ranked 11th team in the nation.
I think this is pretty easily their third easiest remaining game on the schedule.
Yep.
They have 2 gimmies with Kentucky and Coastal. I mean, I don't know if I'll call Kentucky a gimme, but they should
Right.
beat Kentucky and Coastal
Yes.
pretty easily. Besides that, let's say they win this game, and that puts them at 5-0. How many of these games are they winning? At Missouri, which they're already a 3.5-point dog next week on a look-ahead
Yeah.
line. at LSU in Death Valley in October, followed up by Oklahoma at home, Alabama at home, at Ole Miss, at Texas A&M, and then you close the year with Clemson at home.
Yeah,
That
you
is
got to win this.
You got to win this game, and I'll go a step further. I'm not taking South Carolina seriously as a national title contender or national. Obviously, that goes without saying. I think, even though they are 11 in the country, I'm not taking them seriously as a
Right.
playoff contender because of that schedule. I just don't have faith that they're going to go 10-2 with that schedule. Maybe with that schedule, you could go 9-3, but I don't know if we're at the point of putting 9-3 teams in the playoff yet. So, yeah, I saw that the other day and just wanted to bring it up. Shockingly tough schedule for the game.
Yeah, I mean that, especially in you're bringing up just all the SEC teams, but it's being in the SEC, you're gonna have a tough schedule. So early in the season, you got to get these wins. You got the cupcakes that you play. You have to beat those teams. And not saying Vanderbilt is a cupcake at all, but saying that a team that you go out there and you should be able to beat is on paper, on both sides of the ball, and coaching. You should dominate this game in all aspects. And if you don't go out there and show it, then this is why you're not going to be taken seriously in the SEC.
And then at 8:00, the two games that I do have a play on here, finally. Utah at Wyoming is one of them on good old CBSSN. As I'm living and dying with every play of Notre Dame, I'll have a laptop on or a screen on Utah, Wyoming. But I'm laying the number. I know you and Beef are big Dampier guys. You guys were pumping Utah stock in the offseason. And I think one of my biggest takeaways of this early portion of the season is that the Big 12 is Utah's to take potentially, right? That maybe TCU. I'm high on TCU as well, but I think Utah right now. If you're saying who's the favorite, and I'm not looking at the gambling odds. I actually don't know what the gambling odds look like in terms of the futures market there. But Baylor took a loss, and that defense doesn't look like maybe what we hoped. Arizona State took a loss against Mississippi State. K-State is collapsing in this early part of the season. Iowa State has to be right at the top of that list. But do you have the odds pulled up?
Yeah. Oh, Utah plus 400, Texas Tech plus 425, Iowa State plus 550, top three.
Yeah, I forgot about Texas Tech. Yeah, people love them. I'm a little bit.
I'm a little lower on that.
Skeptic. Yeah, right now. Yeah, I'd say Utah and Iowa State are the top, and I know I'm a little higher on TCU. I think we're gonna look back at that TCU North Carolina game and be like, oh, that was a tough matchup for Belichick in week 1 because that TCU team actually ended up being pretty good. I'm a big Josh Hoover guy, even if he is a furry. That's out there. But anyway, back to the sports. Anything on Utah, Wyoming there for you?
I got nothing on that. I would lean Utah just based off, I think that offense is very overpowering. And I think that defense, it needs to be talked about too. That defense fires around. And in the Big 12, you got to be, as Big 12 defense, you got to be physical. You got to be gritty. And that's what Utah is. That's why I think that really complements that explosive, fiery offense with Dampier. And I think Jason Beck's their offensive coordinator they brought over from New Mexico. But they brought over a lot from the same team. So it's a different, offense, but it's all the same chemistry, which I love that. And in the Big 12, like you said, Iowa State maybe, and as an Iowa State fan, I don't see them going that far. I like their offense right now. Rocco Beck looks good, but receivers are sketchy. They really are only running through their tight ends and running the ball. Defense, cornerbacks are a little sketchy to me. Iowa State wise, I think this is Utah's conference to take, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And something else I'll say is it kind of feels like at the end of the Pac-12 era where Utah was just tougher than all these teams. Played better defense and these flashy, Oregon, and that was the Mario era of Oregon, and you had USC, and you had all these teams that UCLA in the Chip era who had a couple good years there towards the top of the Pac-12. It just felt like all these Pac-12 teams were so flashy and, based on these high-powered offenses, and Utah could score, but they would also kind of suffocate you. Right. And that was how they became kind of the class of the Pac-12 there at the end of the Pac-12. Kind of feels like that could happen here again in the Big 12. It kind of feels like a similar setup.
Yep, I completely agree with that. Like that in the Big 12, like we just said, you got to be tough. You got to be gritty. There's going to be a lot of games where it's like 20-17, 17-14. You got to be able to, when it comes down to it, to be able to get a stop, whether it comes down to, a goal line stand or not letting a team get in the red zone. And I think I trust that Utah defense to do so right now in the Big 12 more than most of the defenses that are in the Big 12 right now.
Another game at 8:00, the Mensa Bowl. Darian Mensa going back to play his old team at Tulane. I didn't realize that there was some bad blood, I guess, with Tulane. I guess Mensa kind of left late, maybe. There was I guess they thought he was staying, and then he ended up leaving anyway. So I kind of looked at it as I thought they didn't really care. But it's not like he went to Alabama. He went to Duke.
Right.
So there is probably a part of you that's like, this is a 1.5-point spread. You could have stayed here and we'd be better. But
Right.
they do have Retzloff, who they've been running heavily in these first two games. I think he had I was looking at it earlier. Of course, I didn't write it down. Did he have like 100 yards rushing in each of the first two games?
I didn't write it down, but I wouldn't be surprised. We were talking about this on Tuesday, the way that that offense has kind of run through him. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if he had over 100. He's an athletic kid. I didn't really realize. I only watched a little bit of that game, but watching him run, I was very surprised.
Yeah, he had 113 for rushing in the first one and 64 in the second one, but he scored in both games. That's what it was.
Okay.
He scored on the ground in both games. So only a 152 and 125 passing in both games. And he's not turning the ball over. He has a touchdown throw in both games. They're not taking a lot of chances with Retzloff, but I think they feel like they can play defense, they can run the ball, and they can kind of control the game. And I think that happens again here. I was not impressed with Duke against Illinois. And I know I think a lot of people are going to say, like, oh, Illinois is really good. I'm not sure if Illinois is really good. I think they're good. I think they're probably a 9-3 solid Big Ten team. But Duke should not have looked that way and totally collapsed in the second half the way they did. And that was a pretty close game, and they just totally fell apart there in the second half. So give me Tulane. Duke hasn't covered either of their games this year. I think Tulane, who didn't look good last week either, but did look good in week 1 against Northwestern. I think Tulane gets the job done here and wins.
Yeah, I like that as well. And I don't know if I'm going to actually bet it, but my take on this is just because I had Duke last week against Illinois, and watching that game gave me no confidence for the rest of the season for Duke. I know Illinois is supposed to be that in the top Big 12, but like you said, are they? I don't really know. And they look like absolute dominant against Duke. So in this one, I'll go Tulane, home team. Have Retzlaff run around wild like he has been. Maybe take him another touchdown if you can. But I like Tulane in that one.
And then my last one, but my best one, my best bet of the night at 10:30 in the late night slate. I love Cal plus. I got it at +3. It's at 2.5 now. I would still take that 2.5. Maybe buy it to 3 if you can out there. But Jaron Kiave Sangapulatele, JKS, the Cal quarterback. His first game, he had like the best, true PFF passing grade in like the history of true freshmen. And if you look at the list, it was like Tua and all of these guys who eventually like did go on to make and I think Trevor Lawrence was on there, who did go on to make the NFL. So it was pretty shocking stuff. I think he looked incredible those first 2 weeks. And this is a Minnesota team that struggled with Buffalo in week 1. I'm shocked that they are a favorite here on the road in Cal, traveling 2 time zones, playing at 10:30 in such a weird environment there. They only beat Buffalo 23-10. I don't get this spread. I haven't really had a college football or NFL game until this week. There's one college and one NFL game that I looked at, and I just straight up didn't get the spread. And in this one, it's Cal. I think they should be favored by like 4 or 5 points, to be honest.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. The way that Minnesota's looked, again, especially against Buffalo, there were no encouraging signs whatsoever. And a California team or a Minnesota team that has to travel, like you said, 2 time zones, body clock game. I think this is prime time for California, night game at home to really show, I'm the better team here. Even though I'm an underdog, I should be the favorite. I think Cal does. I think they win outright. So I think I would take them outright.
And this is the stat that I was trying to put together. And the reason I was trying to put this together, you can't like go and look up like coaches against the spread records pretty easily in like certain spots. Justin Wilcox has always been a really, really good underdog against the spread. And I was trying to find the most recent stat I could find. And the best one I could find was from Ryan Coyle 35, October 4th,
There he is,
2024.
our
So
source.
then I was trying to look at the games after October 4th to figure out what games they were underdogs in, and it was two, and I think they went 0-2 in them, so it made the stat a little worse. But Justin Wilcox is 28, 20, and 1, if my stats are correct, against the spread as an underdog. And I know this one's correct. 12, 5, and 1 as a home underdog against the spread. So I think that is a really, really solid play to just back Cal blindly when Justin Wilcox is an underdog usually. So especially at home, give me Cal +3. It's a weird environment. People aren't ready to go play at Cal where the fans don't care and it's sleepy and it's 10:30, but it's actually 7:30 there. And I just think it's a weird environment. I love the Golden Bears. I'm a Kutztown Golden Bear,
especially it being a home game as well.
California.
I think Cal completely runs the table there, and like I said, outright.
Yeah, we are very aligned this week. Hopefully, that's a good sign for both of us. Hopefully, not a bad sign for both of us. Let's take a break, and on the other side, we'll be right back talking NFL Week 2. I got it mixed up there. College football Week 3, NFL Week 2, NFL Week 2. Back after this. Welcome back to the Tough Cover Radio Show. Second hour here, talking all things NFL, and we just went through our college football slate. I'll just run down for anybody who may have missed it. I've got Alabama -20.5, Oregon -27.5, USC -20.5, Pitt -7, Georgia -3.5, Tulane money line, Utah -23.5, and then my best bet is Cal +3. You could get that at 2.5 or buy it to the 3. I'm fine with either way. Those are my plays. Favorite 3 would be Cal, Georgia, and USC probably out of that bunch. But let's move over to the NFL. We'll break down every game here, and we'll start with Jackson. I don't know why we'll start with this, but we'll start with Jacksonville at Cincinnati. Cincinnati, a 3.5-point favorite in this game. Which way do you lean here, Nick?
If I got to go aside, I think I would go Cincinnati. A little bounce back coming off of a game where they did not look good against the Browns. I think I'm not really too high on this Jacksonville team. I think they still have a lot to prove. I like the way they kind of looked against the Panthers, but it's the Panthers. Their running game was pretty good. ETN had a good game. I just think the Bengals offensively are a lot better. I think I would probably lean the over. I know it's at 49.5, but I just don't like any of these defenses. I think they can't stop anything. But I do have a prop in this one. I like Brenton Strange over 31.5 yards. I think he has a good game. I want to pull up the stats that I have of him. Let's see. There we go. He has since the start of last season, Bengals have allowed the second most receptions to tight ends, second most touchdowns to tight ends, and third most yards to tight ends. So they're not reliable over the middle. Bengals just allowed Harold Fannin and David Njoku to combine for 10 catches over 100 yards. And last week, Strange went for 4 receptions, 4 targets, almost 60 yards. So I'd like Brenton Strange to have a good one in this one.
Love that breakdown. Yeah, that makes total sense. They did get. I saw Njoku running dudes over. Fannin was a big fantasy pick up this week based on that. So I totally get that lean there. I like the Jags. Not one of my most favorite plays here this week. Not one of my most confident plays. But give me the Jags +3.5. I did like it a little better when it was 4.5 earlier in the week. It actually got bet down, which surprises me a little bit. I thought Cincy might be the more public bet here, but people, I think there is a level of people think maybe the Cincy early season woes are over since they won last week, but I wouldn't say that at all after how they looked against Cleveland.
Too good.
After winning but not covering last week, Joe Burrow is now 3-8 against the spread in the first 2 games of the regular season, which is the worst record of any quarterback since he entered the league in that stretch. When Burrow is listed as a favorite within the first 2 games, the Bengals are 0-6 against the spread, failing to cover by 11 points per game Within the first month of the season, Burrow is 1-7-1 against the spread as a favorite. They've trailed in all 12 week 1 and 2 games since 2019 that they've played, not one where they've led wire to wire. And then weird stat here, since last year was such a disaster for Jacksonville. Dating back to last season, Trevor Lawrence has now covered the spread in 5 straight games, the longest active quarterback streak in the NFL. Thought that was funny. But obviously they covered last week. And a stat that actually I do think is relevant for the Jags and really for the Jags defense. Everybody's so focused on how many snaps Travis Hunter's playing. Everybody's so focused on Trevor Lawrence, Liam Cohen. Is he going to fix him? Brian Thomas Jr., who's the running back. I think the offense has gotten so much of the kind of the press clippings of anybody who's talking about Jacksonville. But the defense looked amazing in week 1, shutting Carolina down. And this is the Jags defense that looked pretty good a couple of years ago in that late 2022 stretch, the early 2023 stretch. And since then has really, really kind of declined. But part of the reason might be luck and turnover luck. Last year, they forced the least turnovers in the NFL. This year, week 1, they forced 3 against Carolina, and it should have been 4. They had a pick 6 called back on maybe a flimsy penalty. And then Bryce Young scores, and maybe they would have even given up 3 points instead of 10 points in that game. And we'd be even more impressed with the defense. But I'm going to ride with the Jags defense being impressive there in week 1. Give me plus 3.5. I think they'll make it hard on the Bengals. Let's move over to the next one here. This is one of the. I said there was only one spread on the NFL board that shocked me. This one actually shocks me even more than that. The New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins. Now, I understand that New England did not look good in week 1. The Raiders were my favorite play of week 1, my favorite bet of week 1. And I was not impressed with anything relating to the Patriots. But how do you watch the Dolphins and make them a favorite in the next week? I don't get it.
It makes no sense. It makes no. I already hammered. I put both spread. It was plus 1.5 and money line. I already did that right when it came out. I was like, makes no sense. With Dolphins secondary might be one of the worst in the league. I think they made Daniel Jones look like Joe Montana out there. I don't understand in what world Miami would be a favorite. And in this one, I took Drake May passing yards over 216. I think like I just said, the secondary is one of the worst in the league. You're an underdog. Maybe the game script could be to throw a little bit more. I don't know. But they just let Daniel Jones throw for 272, who when has he ever thrown close to 300 yards? Doesn't happen. And I just don't – I'm confused about it. And that's pretty much my only reasoning on why I took the Drake May over and the Patriots money line and the spread.
It's up to 2.5. Like, you can find it at 2.5 out there on New England. It's unbelievable. Who is betting on the Dolphins? Like, I get it. There's sharp angles sometimes to take and, fade the public. Yada, yada, yada. That Dolphins team stinks. You said they might have one of the worst secondaries in the league. I'll say this. I don't think I've ever seen a worse secondary coming into the season. We've had teams where guys get hurt and, you have fifths. We had an Eagles team one year that we were running out, people on the street to play corner a couple years ago. But I understand that, that happens. Injuries, DBs, a lot of injuries in the DB room, especially generally. But to start the year with the group that Miami has is inexcusable. It is horrible. And then the O-line is one of the worst in the sport too. But that secondary is special bad. I would look at Drake May, like you said, the overs. I think it's a great look. And DFS, I expect a big Drake May fantasy day. I wasn't even a big Drake May fantasy guy this year. I don't have him on any rosters to start him really. But I would take a look at him because I think he has a big day. And I think you can probably say, let's just take a look. The Miami schedule. I know they have Josh Allen coming up next week. That'll be ugly. But Justin Fields and the Jets in week 4, that'll probably be a big one for them. Carolina and Bryce, that'll be tough. The Chargers and Herbert in week 6, that'll be a big one. Penix plays them later. Lamar plays them. Josh again. Jaden. Bet on those quarterbacks to do well against that Miami secondary because I think it's special. Yeah.
They're unbelievable. And like the schedule is their win total was 7.5, which again, that made no sense to me at all with their schedule and their whole entire defensive roster built up. Like that team is not going to win 8 games. There's no way, even on paper, just looking at it. I get you got Tyreek. I get you got Waddle, A-Chain, Tua, but 4 of them are never healthy at the same time. You can't put together anything with them. Offensive line struggles the last 3 seasons. Their offensive line has been terrible. So I just don't think they can put together an 8-win season, even close to it, in my opinion.
And so, yeah, just a couple stats I forgot to give out here. Tua has never lost to the Pats, which is I was surprised to hear that. I think that changes now. I think that changes this week. Teams to lose in week 1 by 21 or more and then be listed as a favorite in week 2 are 5-12-2 against the spread since 2005, including 0-3 against the spread since 2022. Also, another stat: Patriots were horrible in the red zone, 1 for 3 last week, so they only scored on 33% of their red zone trips. I expect positive regression there. I think it's probably more likely than not that the Patriots, take a step forward in the red zone. Nick, if you want to refresh real fast, I think we might have an internet delay here. Just refresh and jump back in. I'll start on my next one here because I've got Jets Bills. I got a couple bets here. I have Jets +7 versus Buffalo. This is, in my opinion, a classic letdown game for the Bills. Over the last decade, teams to lead a comeback down 14 plus points in their previous game are just 55-70 straight up, 53-72-1 against the spread in their next game, which includes 23-39 against the spread when having to play on the road. And we've got Nick back here. Just wanted to refresh there. I think that did it. I think we're all good now. Yeah, I think we're good. Home dogs of 7 points or more in the first 9 games of the regular season are 18-1-2 against the spread since 2022 and 37-10-2 against the spread since 2020. That number improves when it's just a home divisional dog as well. And then as a favorite of 7 points or more, Josh Allen is 35-5 straight up, but just 19-18-3 against the spread in his career. So not fantastic at covering these big spreads. I think the Jets are a live dog here. Give me the Jets +7, and I think this game's decided by a field goal either way.
I completely agree with you. We were just talking about it on Football is King. I think Bills coming off a highly emotional win. They had to put out everything in that game. You got to come to MetLife. I know it isn't, that far from them. Divisional game away, coming off a high emotional game where the Jets also looked really good. They looked good offensively, defensively, could clean a little things up, giving up over 30 points. But I think overall as a whole, I think that Jets team looked really good, very encouraging. Aaron Glenn was all over the field too, talking at both sides of the ball. Looked like he was very happy with what his team was really producing. I know you didn't get the win that they should have, but I think there's positive signs for that New York locker room. I think it being at 7, I think it was 6.5. I love that. And like you said, it could be an outright win there.
4 of the last 5 games Justin Fields has started, he scored a rushing touchdown. So I'm sprinkling on that as well. Give me Justin Fields. I think it's +110. Josh Allen's +100. He scores a little more than half the time more recently. So give me Josh Allen touchdown. Give me Justin Fields touchdown. Give me Jets +7 for a little 3-banger there. 3 bets in that game. But over to another divisional matchup here, going to the NFC North. Bears at Lions, and I understand Monday night ended rough for Caleb, and it ended rough for Chicago and Ben Johnson. I think we might be overreacting to that second half a little much in both directions. JJ McCarthy is the offensive player of the week after 140 yards, and the Bears are a 6.5-point dog against the Lions team that looked like they didn't know the season started last week. So I understand week 1's not everything, and but maybe the Lions should still be considered one of the elite teams. I think the Bears are just like the Jets, a live dog in this game. I'm taking the Bears +6.5, and I think this is another close game similar to that Monday night game.
Yeah, I mean, with how the Lions looked and also, the Bears looked, it being 6.5 kind of, that's a big number right there. I know it's a divisional game at home where the Lions usually do take care of business. Jared Goff is a completely different player at home, or I guess just literally in a dome when it compared to outside. So I think in this one, I probably won't have a play, but I think I would lean that Lions -6.5. I'm expecting a bounce back. And at home, divisional at home, I think Goff comes out there, Dan Campbell comes out there and wants to bury him. So I'm going to go Lions in that one.
And then the next one, I don't have any stats for this one. This is just from watching the game. Give me the Seahawks +3 at the Steelers. I understand Rodgers threw for 1,000,000 yards, and I don't think the Jets had a good defensive game plan in that game to attack Rodgers. I think every time they got pressure, it was clear he could not do anything about it. He could not throw in the face of pressure. He could not step up from the pressure. He could not step aside, move around. He is a statue back there. And I think Mike McDonald's going to watch that and know. They went 9 for 9 on screens for like 100 yards last week as well, the Jets. I think the Seahawks are going to shut the screen game down, and I think they're going to blitz and pressure Aaron Rodgers, make him make decisions in the pocket, and I think he's going to turtle. So I like Seattle to win this game. Give me Seattle +3.
Yeah, I could completely see that after how both defenses look. But this total being at 39.5, I'm looking at that. I hate to say this, but I think I would like that under. I don't like either of these offenses. I like both of these defenses. I think if I'm looking at a lean here, I think I would lean that under and be biting my nails from the kickoff on this one. I don't think I have a lean on each side. If I do have a prop, I think I would like Jalen Warren's receptions, not sure reception or receiving yards. I think his receptions were at 2.5. Receiving yards was at like 13.5, I think, 14.5. I think I would do Jalen Warren receiving in this game.
And then, I would lean the under as well. I know the Steelers had a big high-scoring game last week, but I would also lean the under. I think Seahawks are going to play a lot of 17-14, 14-10 type games. Similar to a team that played a 14-9 game last week in their same division. The LA Rams at the Tennessee Titans. Rams beat Houston 14-9 last week. But I'm gonna lay the 5.5 with the Rams here. I think the Rams are the much better team. Cam Ward took 6 sacks last week. Did anyone watch the Rams day against Houston in week 1? Because they looked pretty formidable up front as well. The Titans had 13 penalties. They went 2 for 15 on 3rd and 4th downs. Normally, I'd say that's a room for positive regression. In this case, I'd say it's an undisciplined, poorly coached team by Bozo Brian Callahan, who doesn't know the football rules.
He doesn't know rules.
Play. Unbelievable. Absolute buffoon.
That interview was terrible.
Just one of the more damaging interviews to a reputation I've ever seen as a coach, or just unbelievable. But yeah, this is a total fade of Brian Callahan, total fade of the Titans. I'm not a Cam Ward guy. I know that there were some people out there who said that the tape was better than the production, and a lot of guys dropping balls, things like that. And that's fine. I actually feel bad for Cam Ward because regardless if I'm right or wrong, that I don't think he deserved to be the number 1 pick, and that I don't think he's a special quarterback prospect or anything like that. He was put in a terrible situation where no matter what happens, we won't find out if I was right or wrong in year 1. I actually think any judgments we're making on Cam Ward either direction are probably just premature in this year. That team is so devoid of talent.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. He's in a tough situation with a coach that clearly doesn't know what is going on, doesn't really have that much surrounding him. I know you got Calvin Ridley, but he wasn't really fed that much last week. You got Tony Pollard, nothing to write home about. Offensive line hasn't kept him upright. I mean, I know it was only week 1, but haven't really been productive, and we've seen that from time again. And this is a disgusting prop that I like, but it's Cam Ward's passing yards at 199.5. I think, last week he only had 112, but you play an easier secondary, and this is a game 5.5 spread. He's going to have to throw the ball. The late game, I feel like they're going to be down big. They're going to have to keep throwing the ball. And I think 200 is attainable to get for a player like Cam Ward, who does like to sling the ball. He's going to make dumb decisions. He'll probably have two picks as well. But I think in this game, they're going to have to throw the ball to at least keep up with the Rams. So I think over 200 passing yards for Cam Ward. I'm looking at that.
Cleveland at Baltimore, one of the 3 1:00ers that I don't have a bet on. But I have interest in this one because I do have Baltimore in Survivor. It's my keep it simple, stupid of the week. Just put Baltimore in. There's too many. I don't even know what the second option is. I told Brace if I was picking someone besides it, I think it'd be the Rams. But I don't like anything else on the board. If you're in a Survivor league, I would say put the ball down the fairway and go with Lamar.
I would say Baltimore too. I think me and Beef were talking about it about the Cowboys too. But divisional game. I can Giants just randomly coming out looking like they know how to play football. I could completely see that. But for Baltimore, the only play I have in this is Zay Flowers receiving yards. Leads the league right now. He had 143 last year, had his second, I believe, in target share and first in the NFL and first read share. So I think the usage and volume is just insane. I know, Isaiah likely will not be there. Obviously, he's going to be out the first few weeks. Limited guys to throw to. I know you got Bateman, you got Andrews, but Flowers was the clear number one guy to go to last week. I know the game script might not be in favor to throw the ball if it's a 10.5 point spread and they're up big. They're just going to continue to run the ball. 56.5, I think he could get this in maybe 2-3 catches. So give me Zay Flowers at 56.5.
I like it. The other two 1:00 games that we got here, we have 49ers at the Saints, where Brock Purdy's out for probably a couple weeks here. But and if it was just Brock Purdy out, I would probably be betting the 49ers. I would lay the 3. I think the Saints stink. I think the Cardinals stink, and that was a little bit of a mirage. The Saints hung tough in that game. But no George Kittle with the backup quarterback is what makes me not want to lay the points. If you made me make a pick, it would be San Fran. And I actually liked the under at 43.5 when this opened, assuming Purdy would play, maybe banged up, and assuming I thought I liked the under. With it down to 40.5 and with Mac Jones in, I think Shanahan might have something to prove with Mac Jones because he got made fun of a lot for wanting him. And then obviously maybe Trey Lance didn't go well. There's probably a part of him that feels like, oh, if I would have just got Mac Jones, I would have made him a stud, which is a funny thought. But I think that the 49ers are probably going to come out with a little something to prove in this game, but I'm not betting that because no Kittle. He's just too important.
Yeah, I probably would stay away from this game. But like you said, I think I would lean the under with both teams' offenses. Just one, the 49ers missing so much. Two, the Saints just don't have any firepower besides Alvin Kamara. So in this one, I don't have a play besides leaning the under. If I had to go a side, gun to my head, I would do 49ers, just not relying on this Saints team. I do have the Saints to finish with the least amount of wins this season, so I'll be rooting for that. So I think I'm just going to ride that. Have 49ers win and under. Right now, 40.5. I think obviously you like the 43.5 more, but 40.5, I think I would still take.
Giants at Cowboys, you just mentioned it. I'm lower on Dallas than most. So I think last week was a bit of a mirage and no Jalen Carter, and they were able to run the ball. I don't think they will be this week or in general going forward, really, most of the time able to run the ball. So I actually would lean with the G-Men at +5. I'm not betting it because how could you after last week?
Right.
But that's where I'm at on this one. Where are you?
I would go right now. I think I would lean Dallas. I'm seeing it right now at 4.5. I think I would lean Dallas.
Yeah, you get 4.5.
Again, I'm not high on this team at all. I did take their team total under. I don't think they win that many games. Maybe I think I had them at 6-7 wins. Maybe I had them. But I don't see anything with this Giants team. But again, like I said, this is a divisional game where Giants could come out and just look like a competent football team out of nowhere. So I'm not confident in it. If I had to lean aside, I would lean that Cowboys side.
At 4:05, we got the Denver Broncos at the Indianapolis Colts. I thought that I'd be able to bet Cortland Sutton over 4.5 catches every week. Last week it was plus money. So I was like, oh, it's plus money last week. I don't think they'll up it to 5.5 or anything like that. It's up to 5.5 now this week. And if you look at a lot of his 9 of his last 10 games last year, he had 5+. But if you look at a lot of them, he had 5 exactly in it. So I don't really like 5.5 quite as much. So no play on this one. There is still like a -135 out there. If you're different than me and you don't mind betting the -135, I have a friend who's like, he makes fun of me because I'll bet anything up to -125. -125 is like my cutoff point where I'm like, I don't really want to bet -130. He's like, what's the difference between -140 and -120? He's like, it's very little. If you're not betting that
I
much.
think once I see the 135, I'm still able to take it, but I'm like, I don't know. But once I see like the 140, I think I'm out.
Yeah, 140 is definitely, I can't do 140. But if you're like my friend Heath and you can do the 130, the 135, I think that is out there for Sutton 4.5. But this is a shame for me. This is a game of like Denver and Arizona. We're gonna. I'll just group these together, and you can give your take overall on either. Denver and Arizona were probably the two teams in the NFL that I was most lower on than consensus. People were
Mhm.
pushing Denver as like a Super Bowl contender, and I thought that was absurd. I think they're probably an 8 or 9 win team, and people were pushing Arizona as like a sleeper playoff team. I think they're closer to picking in the top five than making the playoff. Like I really think there's a chance they're one of the worst teams in football. And if you look at Arizona, and I didn't bet Denver's win total under because I knew about this early schedule. I knew that they played
Yeah.
Tennessee in week 1. I knew they played at Indy. So I decided after this week, regardless of win or loss, I'm going to bet Denver's win total under wherever I can find it out there. They do have some live win total unders you can find on certain books. So I'm going to take a look at that after this week. I wish I would have taken the same strategy with Arizona, who was the only win total under I bet at 8.5. Because if you look at their first months here, they got helped. I wouldn't have known this before the season, but they play at New Orleans. They win that game. They play Carolina, who looked even worse than any of us could have expected in week 1. Now they're a 6.5 point spread for the second straight week. Next week, they play San Fran, probably without Purdy or Kittle. That's in San Fran. But the week after, they play Seattle. That's not that tough, but it's not that hard either, or not that easy either, I should say.
Yeah.
Then you have Tennessee, and then you have at Indy. That is like a,
Yeah.
such a cupcake up to October 12th. We're talking
That's
about
easy.
now. After that, Green Bay, at Dallas, at Seattle, at San Fran, Jacksonville, at Tampa, the LA Rams, at Houston, Atlanta, at Cincy, at the LA Rams. Like it gets really difficult. I
Tough.
think the last 10, 11 games of the season. So I still feel good about under 8.5, but man, I am annoyed because we're going to be getting columns soon when they're 3-1, 4-1, where it's like, man, the Jonathan Gannon Cardinals, they're really trending in the right direction. It's like, no, they've played the worst teams in the league.
No, but that's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to see ESPN, SportsCenter, whatever it goes. Are the Arizona Cardinals legit? Like, no, they've played JV teams. What are we doing here?
Yeah. Anything on Denver, Indy, or Carolina, Arizona for you? I got nothing on either.
Game wise, no. I got two props, one in each. James Conner, I took his rushing yards, 63.5. Panthers just let up over 143 to Travis Etienne, 200 total. I think Cardinals coming in as a 6-point favorite. They're thinking that this game script's going to be to run the ball. He only put up 39 last week, but I think this is a bounce back spot against the Panthers run defense, who has allowed the most rushing yards to running back since the start of last season. So I like James Conner in that one. And in the Colts Broncos, I like Tyler Warren, 43.5 receiving yards. Last week, 7 receptions, 9 targets, 76 yards against obviously a weak Miami team. But those 9 targets were good enough for his second most targets among tight ends in week 1. So I think from the start of the last season, Broncos have allowed the 5th most receiving targets to tight ends. So I think the volume is going to be there. We've seen Daniel Jones love to, go over the middle, not, dink and dunk, I guess, so to speak, but he does he can get the ball and make plays happen. So I think you just get him the ball 4 or 5 times. I think he can easily get this.
And then obviously the big game in our neck of the woods here, Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. I feel I spend a little less time on the Eagles, I feel like, than the other shows at this station. I try to make it more like a gambling, take it around the board in both slates. So I do think if you're looking for Eagles content, plenty of places on this station to go listen to Eagles Chiefs. So I'm not going to go too in depth, but I don't know if you've seen my tweet that's been random. I tweeted it on so what's today is Friday. I tweeted on Wednesday, and Twitter was not talking about football on Wednesday. To leave it at that. And the all of a sudden Thursday goes around. I start getting retweeted by these like beat writers who I've been reading for like 20 years. This Jalen Hurts tweet, I can't even like go on Twitter because of all the notifications I'm getting. Now it's at like 2,500 likes, and yeah. But this stat's unbelievable. This stat, it floored me when I saw it. I sent it to the Gambler chat to try to get like people to check my math on it. Sent it to another group chat to try to get people to check my math. I heard the stat that the Eagles were 44-11 when AJ Brown plays, which is an unbelievable stat. Leave that alone, and that's a crazy stat. And in my head, no, as someone who watched all those games, I quickly remembered, well, Jalen left the Commanders game. Jalen missed the Cowboys game on Christmas Eve. Jalen missed the other game that year right before that, right after that Cowboys
Yeah.
game. AJ got knocked out of a game where he only played in week 18 of 2023, where he only played 18% of the snaps in that game
Mm-hmm.
before getting hurt. And you go ahead and you take the games out that AJ or Jalen either didn't start, or let me correct this. Let the all of the games AJ played, take out the
Mm-hmm.
games Jalen missed or didn't finish, and take out the games that AJ got hurt in. That number actually goes to 43-7 in games that Jalen and AJ have both started and finished. In 2022, they went 16-2 together. In 2023, they went 11-5 together. In 2024, they went 15-0 together. And then in 2025, they went 1-0 together. So far in games that they both start and finish. Eagles money line. I think I might have lost Nick
I'm
here.
with it. Eagles money
There we go.
line. I coming into this season, I had this penciled in. Those games you look at the schedule, you're like, what, this is going to be a loss. But then I was like, coming into it, talking on Football is King, I was just like, this is Jalen Hurts we're talking about. This guy doesn't care what you think, doesn't care what you think about his play style, doesn't care about stats, doesn't care anything. He goes out there and wins the game. Doesn't matter if he's using his legs, if he's using his arms, it doesn't matter. He goes out there and he wins. So for that, I'm going with the Birds. And like you said, Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. I got it. You got it at -125. I think I saw. I think I got it.
It's down to -110.
So.
It's down to
I'm gonna hit it
-110
right
on
now.
DraftKings right now.
I'm going to hit it right now then.
So I have
That's insane to
-115.
me.
I'm -115 and -110, whatever. I'm just gonna leave my bets in. But -110 now, that's unbelievable. It was at -140 earlier this week. I've never seen that big of a drop in Jalen touchdown. I don't know why it would do that. But let's speed through the other night games real fast so we can close out the show here. I like the Falcons. This bet I really liked to start the week, but the line dropped from 5.5 now all the way down to 3.5. I think the Sharps are on Atlanta here. I actually walked out of that Tampa Atlanta game feeling better about both teams. I think both of those teams are playoff teams. So give me Atlanta plus 3.5, but definitely don't like it the way that I liked it before.
Yeah, I think in this one, I think I'm going to go Minnesota. I think they showed a lot to me last week. I wasn't very high on this team at all. I think I had them only winning 7-8 games. But the fight that they really showed in that second half, I might be overreacting, but that really showed me a lot. The way that JJ kind of came out there and really just took over, not really sure that he can really do that again. But if he just doesn't turn the ball over and just game manages the whole entire game like he did the second half, I think Minnesota can be a real good team. So I think I would lean Minnesota in this one. Probably won't end up making a bet on this one, but I think I would lean Vikings in this one.
Yeah, I think KOC is a great coach. I'm waiting for the defensive regression from Minnesota. I think we saw some of it in the first half. I think we'll see some here from Atlanta. But then we get to real quick. I'll skip by the 10 o'clock game. I've got nothing on Chargers Raiders. I'm tempted by the Raiders, but I actually didn't even think they looked as good as I maybe hoped they would last week, even in a win. So I'm staying away from this one. Anything for you on Chargers Raiders?
Yeah, that's a stay away from me too, side-wise, but I do like Jacoby Myers. I think I saw 57.5 receiving yards. Whatever his line is, I think I'm going to be taking. I don't care what it is. I'm going to be blind betting Jacoby Myers all year long, no matter what the line is, whether it's receptions, whether it's yards, touchdowns. I think he's just one of those guys that I'm gonna back every single week, no matter the matchup, no matter the game script. I'm just gonna take Jacoby Myers. I saw it at 57.5. It went down to 56.5. I'd like it at both. So give me Jacoby to have a good game.
And then last game, it's before that game, but it's my best bet of the entire weekend. College, NFL, Saturday, Sunday. I guess it's not the weekend anymore. It's all the way to Monday. But give me the Bucks at the Houston Texans. I don't understand this at all. I got it at +3. It's now down to 2.5. I'll take the money line. I don't care about the point. The Bucks are going to win this game. Since 2020, favorites the week after not scoring a touchdown are just 21-36 against the spread, including 9-24 against the spread since the start of 2023. Bad offense is repeatable. Bad defense is not as repeatable. Bad offense is incredibly repeatable, and that offensive line is disqualifyingly bad in Houston. Todd Bowles saw that, He's going to blitz, baby, blitz, as Roll Tide Willie
Yeah.
would say out there. I expect a lot of pressure on CJ Stroud in this game.
Yeah, and especially from Houston that didn't score a touchdown last week, them being a favorite here. In my opinion, I think I would flip these lines and take it. I would boost the Tampa Bay up to -3.5. Take that, whatever that is. I think they win outright. Maybe even I think they win by a touchdown. I think this Tampa Bay team could be a Super Bowl contending team, in my opinion, in the NFC. I don't think Houston can be in that AFC. I don't, like you said, that offensive line is like having a bunch of us out there. It make no sense to how they operate it, or like you said with the Miami secondary. How do you come into a season with this offensive line protecting CJ Stroud? I don't get it. So in this one, I'm going to go Bucks, and I would even take them -3.5. Completely flip the line.
No, I'm right there with you. I think that Tampa is going to win this game outright. It's my favorite bet of the week. 6-unit play. I didn't have a play bigger than 3 units last week, so this is a big one for me. I'll be watching it from Nebraska next week. I'll be watching Monday Night Football. Fun fact for the people out there. But that's going to do it. Thanks to Nick McClay for hopping on here. You can go follow him at Nick McClay 22 for all his picks and all his stuff. Football is king. Check it out with him and Ryan Beef Coyle. And you can follow me at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. And stay tuned to The Gambler all day because we've got the Villanova boys, Brace, Bernard, Sam. We got Beef. And is Roy Burton going with them as well?
I'm not sure. That'd be awesome if he does. That'd be a good group out there.
I believe Roy Burton's out there as well. I know the others are. My apologies for not having that ironed out. But check out all the stuff with the Gambler Gang down there in Happy Valley, one of my favorite places on earth. But for now, Tough Cover Country,